And we're live at last. Hi there. Welcome once again, everybody. For those of you who have maybe visiting this channel for the first time, or for those of you who have been here before, well, welcome to Cast Iron Wednesday. Here on YouTube, if you don't know already, a number of cooking channels have started something of a tradition of cooking, or rather doing a video every Wednesday about cast iron cookware and cooking something in cast iron. It's become quite popular among a lot of the smaller channels on YouTube, and I guess I'm one of them. That's really what I've been doing for good grief about the last year or so. It seems that oh, 1 second. Oh, okay, yeah. Hi, Papa Dan. Well, you're glad to see you're here. I mean, I know you've been kind of delayed as well, but nonetheless. So yeah, I've been doing my best to try to do one of these live videos every Wednesday. Unfortunately, it seems like every so often something has happened to delay it. In fact, this is my first live Wednesday in 3 weeks, so I very much appreciate anybody who stuck around long enough to return to this channel tonight. 2 weeks ago, I was in New York in the home of my friends, Panic and Anthony, and my attempt to do a video was unfortunately halted due to lousy software. Last week, I was back home, and then as it turned out, work just became nonstop crazy that day. I did not have time to prepare or really do anything, so unfortunately, it had to be postponed once again. I've been doing my best to make up for it for the last few days. As you may notice on the channel, I've been trying to post a video every day for at least the last few days, where even some have been short, some have, I hope, been a little more lengthy and hopefully more interesting, or at least, again, that's been my hope. Although after 3 weeks, I mean, it does turn out we've got something of an interesting subject for you tonight, because as noted, oh, by the way, what we have here is steam coming from a pot of water. As noted in the title of this video tonight, well, as you know, this coming Saturday is September 11th, 2021. And yes, that does mean it gives us the 20-year mark since the tragedy that befell us all on September 11th, 2001. And I decided that tonight would really be the best time for me to do something about this, because, yeah, I have indeed been wanting to talk something about this subject. As it turned out, as I said, tonight is probably the most convenient night to do so for a couple of reasons. I mean, again, September 11th is going to be taking place on Saturday, and I do realize that a lot of people are going to be doing things on Saturday, whether or not it has to do with the memorial that will inevitably be happening for September 11th, 2001. So rather than interrupt the weekend's proceedings, I felt it would be more convenient to do this tonight. Also, one reason why I wanted to do this tonight, I mean, why do a September 11th memorial or tribute or something here on this channel when there's going to be a lot of other channels and just about every TV station will be doing something about it? Well, my main reason is because, as we know, unfortunately, recent world events have really brought September 11th, 2001 back into the forefront. And I don't just mean from the fact that it's been 20 years. And unfortunately, it seems almost inevitable that by Saturday, just about every September 11th tribute or memorial or anything you can say about that is almost inevitably going to be tainted by politics, especially modern day politics. People have been pointing fingers all at each other and getting into arguments and everything like that for at least the last several months now. And that, I feel, unfortunately, does not really change the fact that a tragedy occurred 20 years ago. And really, it's because of that I felt, well, if it seems as though there's going to be too much politics this weekend, well, then I might as well try doing this myself and see what happens as we try to talk about September 11th, 2001 without getting involved in an argument over politics. Two other things, and then I'll shut up and say hi to everybody, like Gunter45 and Flico, if I'm pronouncing it right, and Jessica T, and Papa Dan, and Bookworm73, and Red Dog. Hi, everybody. But anyway, two other things I guess I'll mention, and then I'll shut up and get down to doing some cooking, because this is a cast iron cooking channel, and there will indeed be some cast iron tonight. In fact, I guess I should show you what we're going to be doing. As I mentioned again in the title of this video, I've tried to decide an appropriate dish to make for something like tonight. And what I ended up deciding was to do my friend Jeff Rogers' so-called ultimate mac and cheese. Jeffrey Rogers, as you know, the culinary fanatic, he's actually a friend of mine. I mean, you know, close enough that we exchange Christmas presents every year, and we have met in person at the National Cornbread Festival down in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. So so I felt it would be nice to do his probably his most popular and most famous dish. And in addition, I've chosen a couple of special cast iron pans to go with this. They are shown in the title of photo for this video as well, and here is one of them. In fact, this was in fact a present, I'm pleased to say, from Jeff. This is the Cracker Barrel so-called American Seal skillet, which was produced by Lodge Cast Iron for Cracker Barrel in 2015. Jeff, actually, I did not expect to receive this, and this was, in fact, a present from Jeff. He seasoned this one and was kind enough to give this to me as a present. So that's all things considered, because, of course, of the American theme to this, and especially because it was a present from Jeff. I'm more than happy to be able to use this. In addition, we also have the 2018 Lodge Cast Iron Made in America skillet, which should also obviously be appropriate for tonight. I mean, Lodge did this Made in America series for, well, 3 years, it seems like, 2018, 19, and 20. They have not done another Made in America pan for 2021, unfortunately. And the reason why they didn't, well, it's their own reasons, and I'm not privy to it. All I know is that in 2018, they came up with this beautiful Made in America pan with, as you can see, a very nice design of the flag on it, which makes it, of course, very patriotic. And as such, that's another reason why I felt it would be rather appropriate to use this tonight. And I guess that I'm not sure if this is the first time Jeff Rogers' mac and cheese is going to be made in 2 cast iron skillets rather than a Dutch oven. But nonetheless, I think there's enough room in these to be able to do that. So, you know, Strong's Adventures, well, thumbs up, thank you very much. Also nice. That's too bad. Oh yeah, nice looking skillets. Yeah, these skillets unfortunately were limited edition, and now about the only place you could find them are probably on eBay for much inflated prices, but that's okay. They are coming out with other ones. I mean, after all, Lodge just released a new Rosie the Riveter skillet within just the last few weeks or so. And if you go to their website, you can certainly get that one, for instance. Sound is on point tonight. Well, I'm very glad to hear that also. All right. Actually, let me move this down a little bit so that I can take a closer look at these comments right now, and then we will continue, which means we go back here to, yeah. Hi, Papa Dan, and found and enjoyed, well, yeah, on the road videos. Well, thank you very much. And, well, yeah, Wandering Sand, yeah, it's good to be back, too. I'm very pleased. So, as I mentioned, the last few days I've been making an effort to try to catch up with these videos here. And as always, I very much appreciate everybody who is, well, kind enough to show up here. So, Yeah, hello all. 9/11, when they push their luck. Yes, you could definitely say that. And I guess I'm going to be, as I said, I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. And I encourage other folks as well to, it's not a bad idea, I think, to reminisce and just mention in the comments, about what happened to you on that day, September 11th, 2001, because I know that's a day that many of us will probably never forget. I'm having trouble believing that still, oh my God, or understanding that yes, there are kids who were born after September 11th, 2001, who have already graduated high school. Yeah, so that kind of makes me feel old, but nonetheless. Okay. And finally, as I mentioned, there are two other little things. I'm trying to remember what one of them was. Nonetheless, one of them is just this: as I said, I am not interested in politics or getting into a political argument, especially over current politics. That is a subject for another time. And in regards to September 2001, and some of the nonsense that did develop in its aftermath, I think I only have two things to say. Jet fuel can't melt cast iron. And if a cast iron skillet happens to crack while cooking tonight, well, no, it's not an accident. It's actually a controlled demolition. Anyway, having said that, I think let's actually change the view from my ugly mug to something I think that folks may want to see, which would be, I know, not cast iron. However, this is, of course, the Wagner Ware. Better back up before it steams up the lens. Wow. The Wagner Ware Magnolite Dutch oven, which has really become probably my all-time favorite water boiler. I love making pasta in this. And, well, this is, of course, going to be a mac and cheese. And so because of that, of course, what else can we make? What else should we use for it? Besides, it's American made, so here we go. The water's already been salted and brought up to a boil. So all we really need to do is I have loaded up a whole bunch of pasta, and in we go. All right. As the recipe notes, we're supposed to cook this until it's just under al dente. So the water has already been nice and salted, so this should not take very long, especially since we start off at first with by covering it. Of course, we've got to be careful about the inevitable boil over, but as long as we check this in just a couple of minutes, we should be good. And having said that, yeah, I was at home asleep and was woken up by the news, with the news by my sister. Says Jose. I glued myself to I glued to my TV for the rest of the day, and I didn't go to work. I live in California. Well, yeah, I know that feeling all too well. I'm here on the East Coast, and so it happened for us when we were already at work. And I'm certainly not going to forget what happened on that day, because I work a cubicle job, and in fact, we were all busy doing things at our workstations, and like a lot of offices, there was a TV over in one cubby, especially meant to play things like, well, as a matter of fact, as it turned out, things like the news. And so in my case, I happened to be at work when one of our co-workers actually just walked by and just announced loudly, a plane hit the World Trade Center. And of course, we thought, oh my, that was awful. Yeah, what a tragedy. So, of course, the thing is, I live here in Boston, and I should say as well that for me personally, it was a little bit different, because at that time in 2001, I happened to be engaged to the woman who I ended up marrying a year later. She was my fiance. And the thing is that here in Boston, we actually have a World Trade Center. It is not a huge skyscraper. It is rather a small but rather sprawling complex over near the harbor. In fact, some ways near the downtown area and not too far from the airport, and it's called the World Trade Center. Mostly it's meant for trading things like, well, I believe it was owned by Fidelity Investments. In fact, my fiance at that time was temping. She was an office temp, and she worked at the World Trade Center, in fact. And so when somebody said the plane hit the World Trade Center, my first thought was, gee, does that mean it actually hit the World Trade Center here in Boston? Of course, that turned out not to be the case, as I found out very shortly after that. So really what happened at that point is that we all went on working for at least the next 30 minutes or so, because, yeah, I know that was a very awful tragedy. A plane hit the World Trade Center. But of course, one plane it was almost certainly an accident. And so, as I said, very tragic, something that we would certainly be hearing a lot about on the news. But what really shocked us out of our seats and pretty much changed everything was when when about 30 minutes later or so, the news came in that a second plane had hit. What time was this? Like maybe about 9:15 in the morning, I think. Actually, I think the first one hit about 9:15. The second one hit about 9:45. And that was enough to really jolt us up. A second plane? I mean, I know I was thinking, no, that's impossible. Maybe debris from the first plane hit, or some of the tower or something actually crashed into the second tower. That was my first thought. Of course, I turned out to be wrong, because that was when the TVs went on, and everybody spent pretty much the next couple of hours or so standing there at our office, mind you, glued to the TV, watching the events unfold. So I watched on TV as the first tower collapsed, and then the second tower. So I saw it on live TV. Somewhere around that time, word came in addition to all that the Pentagon had been hit. And believe me, people were really beginning to get scared at that point. We had no idea what we were going to do at that point. And it was maybe only a little bit after that word came in that the President of the United States had ordered all planes in the country to land right there and then. So this all happened within the space of a couple of hours on that morning. It was a Tuesday morning, in fact, September 11th, 2001. And I know I'm not going to forget it was a Tuesday because of something else strange that happened. Meanwhile, while I'm waiting, let's see. Glock 30 fan. I was working in downtown Cleveland. It was unseasonably warm. I had to walk for a few hours in a suit before I could get to the bus. Oh, yeah. Phew. People were surprisingly civil. I think everybody was in shock, in fact. It was the scariest thing I had ever seen. I was 33 at the time. I had several coworkers who work in New York City. The stories were horrifying of that day. And Josh, I was in 8th grade in science class when the teacher turned on the TV. It inspired me to go into the fire department at 16 and then into the Army at 19. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan. Well, I guess I should say congratulations for that, and also for being a veteran. But I have to say my brother was also a veteran of both Gulf Wars. So yes, he was also there, and actually, I don't think he ever went to Afghanistan. He went into Iraq both times during both Gulf Wars. So yes, on that day, and when really everything came to a standstill. I mean, my job at that time, of course, was to be at a cubicle taking calls from customers, and I distinctly remember that the calls that came in practically stopped. I mean, nobody was calling in because, of course, everybody was just glued to the TV and just watching the events unfold. And I did, in fact, have a couple of, in a way, let me see. As I mentioned, my fiance, she had an interesting experience on that morning as well, because I cannot explain this, but as far as I know, this is true. I've no reason to believe that she would have lied to me. She had actually called in sick to work that day. She has claimed ever since, you can take this with a grain of salt if you want, and I can't explain it. She has claimed ever since she woke up that morning from a very vivid, a very strong nightmare. This was several hours before the planes actually hit, and no, the nightmare did not involve crashing planes. I don't think she even remembered what it was, but it was enough for her to actually call in sick that day. So even if a plane had hit the World Trade Center in Boston, she would not have been there. And so she was, of course, since I was at work, all she could do is watch it on TV at home. That was one strange thing that I could not understand. As it turned out, her best friend at the time also was in New York City. And so she saw the whole thing. She was standing in the street and she saw the towers collapse. So did a couple of other friends of mine, as it turned out. One other thing, I guess, and that is that the company that I worked for and was working for even then, the CEO of that company had a couple of very close friends who were in fact, on one of the planes, one of the Boston planes. So he lost a couple of very close friends there on that day. Because of that, September 11th became a very personal day for, really for our company. And it was something that we paid tribute. Well, yeah, I guess that's a good word. Paid tribute for a number of years after that. And yeah, pasta's getting thick. Yeah, I know. I'd say we're probably at the point now where I think I can drain it. So let's turn this off. And let's get back to our business and do a little cooking here. And where did my other, there it is. So let me actually taste test this first. I think we're just about the right point here. Not quite al dente. So let's drain it out. And bring it back. I reserved some of the pasta water out of habit, but I don't think we're going to actually be using it in this. So now that we've done that, let's do our next step. I have a link to the recipe, by the way, again, on the description of this video. It's Jeff Rogers mac and cheese. The recipe next says we're supposed to take about 3/4 of a stick of butter and stir it in. Meanwhile, the last stick will be used to coat the cast iron pan or pans with butter. So anyway, as I mentioned, those couple of things were really among some of the strange events that happened in my case on September 11th. Let's see what else this says here. You know what I was talking about in my previous comment. Oh, Papa Dan. Okay, yeah. Sorry that I've missed the last show. Well, Pegtooth, I've missed the last couple of shows myself. My utilities have been turned off in time for winter. Ow. And my phone and back-to-back were stolen all in 8 days. Ouch. I'm very sorry to hear that. Well, I can only hope that you've been able to replace it and that you really didn't lose anything especially valuable, other than your phone, that is, meaning, as far as information is concerned. I hope you didn't lose anything really, really valuable. Yes, sir. I had friends doing contact work on the base. Sorry to hear. Yeah, I know. I was up watching the news on TV for a while. It was happening, incredibly shocking. Oh, no question about that at all. Really, it's like the after image kind of stuck in my mind in a weird way for a good couple of days after that, even though I was in Boston, not New York City. As you know, in Boston at that time, we had two large skyscrapers ourselves. Now we have three. One is the John Hancock Tower, and the other is the Prudential building. And for a good couple of days after that, I couldn't even explain why this happened. But anytime I looked at the Boston skyline and looked at those buildings, it's as though I saw planes crashing into those buildings there. My mind just formed the image. At no time did at no time did I ever think, oh, this was some kind of a prophecy or anything like that. I mean, I can only think it must have been just myself reacting again to seeing the images of those crashing towers there. I didn't see the planes crash live, although of course they've been shown on video many times since then. All I saw were the collapsing towers, but that was enough. Anyway, now we've got our butter melted in, which means now here. Yeah, they had that much time to leave. Yeah, 10 minutes is a long time under those circumstances. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can think about what happened just before the towers crashed, of course. This is where, as you know, unfortunately, things like we lost all of those firefighters and other people. Well, they died in very sad ways, which I guess I really should not go into too much detail about it because there's really no need to. Especially since, as I said, I'm not interested in conspiracy theories about it. All I know is that, well, again, is that 400 firefighters went in, and I think not many of them came out, unfortunately. There were several police officers who were lost that day as well. Anyway, back to the back here. I've got the cast iron pans. We are supposed to coat these with butter. So let's start doing that. That's actually a much more cheerful subject here. I don't want to get too somber. I mean, it's hard to say because, yeah, here we are talking about a tragedy. But at the same time, it's not, I have to say, it's not like I'm going to break down crying, fortunately or unfortunately, because we have had 20 years, of course, I shouldn't say get used to, but to accustom ourselves to the experience and everything that happened afterwards. And we've had plenty of time to study it and really see what lessons we've learned, which again, I dropped this butter, which would really get us into a subject that as I said, I'm not going to cover. Regarding that topic, I think I'm going to go maybe as far as the initial invasion of Afghanistan, and that would be about it. But in regards to September 11th, well, as I mentioned, we saw the towers crash. The Pentagon, as you know, was hit, and as you know as well, Flight 93 crashed on its way, not allegedly, but supposedly on its way to the White House, because supposedly, or at least based on the best estimates, the passengers did a very brave thing and ended up sacrificing themselves for it. Yes, which really does make them heroes, I guess, much more so than the cowards who actually did this. Yeah, it was really an act of cowardice more than anything else. I mean, it does take, I will not say it takes courage to be a suicide bomber, because rather what it is cult programming. And that, again, is probably something that I don't think I should get too much into. However, I guess that's really my opinion, is that you're really kind of like willingly brainwashing yourself into becoming a suicide bomber like that. And being able to put Your fear of death aside does not necessarily make you brave. Much braver, rather, was the passengers who, just that, who stormed the cockpit and, well, did what they did. Which is why I think, really, I shouldn't say I enjoyed, but I was actually very impressed by the movie United 93. I was much more impressed than I thought, than I expected, rather, especially because it turned out to be something of a realistic. Let me put this back in with the rest of it. Wash my hands. Became something of a pretty realistic, I guess, scenario based on pretty much as much information as they could gather from it. And the best part was that they tried to be neutral as possible, and I think that was really the best way to present it. So, plane landed, yeah, City Hall Civic Center. Yeah, in my case, regarding the plane landings, one part of my my office, is that we actually we deal a lot with senior living communities and senior living facilities all across the country. So we regularly send technicians and workers out to all over the country. And two of our road techs were actually in, like, Dallas, not New York, but they were in Dallas at the time when the order came in to land all of the planes. So they found themselves stuck in Dallas for a good couple of days or more before they could actually get anywhere. Okay, now that we've done this much, let's start playing with our food, shall we? Here in the background, let's see if I've got a shot of that. There we are. Is that this is a 5-cheese mac and cheese, and that's why. Yeah, I have to admit, no, I did not grate this myself. I mean, I actually didn't have time to do all that, so I am actually settling for bagged cheese, although I am using Kraft brand for whatever that's worth. So we've got some sharp cheddar here. We have some mozzarella. The recipe calls for Monterey Jack. I could not find shredded Monterey Jack, so I had to settle for Cheddar Jack, which is a combination of more cheddar and Monterey Jack. Also, these are the 3 cheeses that are going to be mixed in with all of the pasta. And when everything is done, we're really going to coat it with the next 2 cheeses, which will be some Parmesan and some shredded Romano. The recipe again calls for Pecorino Romano, but when I looked for that today, I saw a bag of this size of Pecorino Romano going for $15. I'm afraid I think I had to do a little bit of a compromise, and so as a result, instead of Pecorino Romano, we are using some nice shredded Romano. Not that there's anything really wrong with that either. Okay. Now, again, the recipe says we're supposed to actually build this in layers. And I'm actually, again, as I said, even though I know that's kind of like an important part, I think I'm going to try to do it the easy way and really just pretty much mix it in some at a time. It should save us some time anyway. So, William Hurt says, Fight Club, my favorite Brad Pitt and Edward Norton movie, outrageously ended with NYC Sky Towers collapsing from the bottom up. Okay, I missed that one. Oh, yeah, a year later I saw that on TV news. Oh, okay. Oh, I understand. Fight Club was actually before 2001. So, yeah. Since one of my daughters and her family moved out of, and then, okay, I don't go as much. Missed the specials at Kroger. 9/11 first responders are still sick and dying from hazard exposures. Oh, remember them on Saturday. Definitely. So, yeah, there are a lot of sad after effects of that day, some of which probably could have been avoided. Hell, the whole thing could have been avoided, but then, well, it's been 20 years. I mean, it's easy to say what could have been avoided, but wasn't. And all I would like to do, I think, is just, well, do what we can to just remember what did happen. Again, pay tribute to those who were lost, both on both the victims who really were like in the World Trade Center and on the planes, for instance, as well as the ones who bravely sacrificed themselves again on the planes, and a lot of those first responders. So it was indeed a sad time, and it was indeed a day of infamy. So that's why am indeed more than happy. Well, I shouldn't say happy, but that's why I'm willing to want to discuss something like this. I guess you could say this is like a cast iron mukbang. You know those mukbang videos, which I probably even pronounced wrong? The ones that are supposed to be eating videos. But on a lot of those eating videos, they don't just eat. Some of them they do, but in a lot of them, they give some kind of a sermon or another. Usually they're talking about, I don't mean religious sermon, usually they're talking about some subject or another, even while they're eating. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the food. Pretty much, it's like their eating video is an excuse for them to talk about whatever subject they're talking about, which they can do. I mean, hey, it's their video. Let them do what they want. But for that reason, I'd like to say this is probably what we're doing as well. We are doing like a mukbang in that way. So let's start out here with some. Oh, wait a second. That's right. Jeff says, and I'll take his word for it, we should start with the mozzarella. Start with the white cheese, then the yellow cheese, and then the white cheese, so that we don't lose track of where we're going. And actually, I like that plan. There we go. So that means we get to toss in some, spill it all over the place, some mozzarella, and some more mozzarella. Come on. This is only the first bag, so this is only half of the mozzarella. And next will be the cheddar. Yeah, so far I've only used half of it. But we will be sort of doing this in layers as well. And that after this, we will then put in more macaroni and more cheese. And finally, the cheddar jack, which again is a combination of Monterey Jack and cheddar, which is also good because actually I'm not so sure that my roomie is that fond of Monterey Jack. I know a lot of people love it. Not everybody does. So that's a lot of cheese. It almost makes you think, gee, do we really need any more cheese? And I've only used half of it. Well, let's just mix it in as best we can. And do this nice and careful like. Yeah, this is a lot. My reasoning for using cast iron skillets here, two of them, is I had assumed that the volume of these things would be about the same as the 3-quart Dutch oven that Jeff uses to make his mac and cheese. And I still think it is, actually. Because now that I'm mixing this around, other than spilling a few crumbs of the cheese, it does look like it might actually be working. So that's not so bad. I mean, it did look like a huge pile of cheese. Yes, it was a huge pile of cheese. However, mixing it in, it looks like we are indeed getting enough room to do what we need to do. And then we're going to put another layer of macaroni on it. And now for the other one. And there's really nothing to this, actually, is there? I mean, as you can see, it's pretty simple. It does require, of course, the cost of buying all that cheese, but after you've done that, the rest of it is pretty easy. I mean, as you can see, it's really no more than just cooking the macaroni and mixing in the cheese and then baking it in the oven, which I have already preheated, by the way, to 375. Nonetheless, as you can see, this actually, I've got more room here than I thought, so I think we may very well be able to make this work. A little bit of extra here. Nice. Let's see what we have here. Parking a Primer. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Okay. I never really liked homemade mac and cheese until Rhonda made it in the Dutch oven. Huh. I was sure I was going to have to re-season it afterwards. That was the best mac and cheese ever. Yeah, I am looking forward to this. To change the subject for the moment, Pawpaw Dan, did you find BSR-13 spider or camp oven on your trip? I have not, unfortunately, because, oh yeah, believe me, if and when I ever find that BSR-13, I will be doing a video on it. That's one of those things I could very well be looking for the rest of my life. I acknowledge that. But then again, that's what the hunt is like. Maybe someday I might actually come across that incredibly rare piece. Who knows? But at this time, yes, I am still looking for a BSR 13 spider or camp oven. Who knows? Maybe someday. Okay. I love cheese. I can eat it continuously. Adopt me for your leftovers. Yeah, I do believe there are going to be leftovers here. I mean, we're going to have 2 full pans of this stuff, and there's only 2 of us living here. On the other hand, we do have friends and family. So, okay, now for the rest of the macaroni, which is not going to be very much, fortunately. Yeah, good. I was worried at first that it wasn't going to fit. Now I think it will. There we go. In fact, if anything, I'm thinking I probably won't be using all of the rest of that cheese. I'll use some more of it, but not all of it. There. So far, so good. And anyway, once this is in the oven, I'll have plenty of time more to talk about 9/11. Oh, 9/11, 9/11. I was convinced that they would actually declare 9/11 to be a national holiday, which no, they have not done. I was also convinced that people would start claiming that 911 on the phone was named after that day, which also fortunately has not happened. Why do I say fortunately? Well, because again, it was a tragedy, and it's not like we should take a day off from work for it any more than we did for December 7th, 1941. I mean, we remember it, yes, but at no time did they ever consider that to be a holiday, or D-Day for that matter. All right, so next, let's throw on some more cheese, shall we? Which means more mozzarella. I've been politely criticized for speaking names like mozzarella in an accent when obviously I speak it with a very poor accent. Well, that comes from growing up in an Italian family where naturally that was the only way we pronounced mozzarella. Which is also one reason why I've been told some I guess in other cultures is one word for it. They consider it offensive, apparently, when dumb Americans like myself try to talk in their accent or pronounce things in their accents. When I talk about things like a South African potjie, or making a Brazilian feijoada, or Vietnamese pho, I'm trying to do that really out of respect more than anything else. And I can only hope I'm not offending people like that. Yeah, nice. Looks like that takes care of the mozzarella. So that's pretty good. Next. And again, folks, please feel free to comment on the comments, not just about the mac and cheese, whether or not you like it, but, talk about 9/11. All I ask is, as you know, so far it's been nice and civil tonight, and let's hope it stays that way. I appreciate that. Because, again, there are a lot of memories, that I would not mind people bringing up. If it's too much of a tragedy or too tragic for you to bring up something up, then you don't have to. On the other hand, as I said, sharing our memories like this I like to think it's not a bad thing. I mean, after all, it's been 20 years, but even so, it may still be a little therapeutic, really, to get these things off your chest. I think it is for me. One other thing is that when all this happened, in addition to all this, one thing I did at work, from work of all things, was log into a chat room where I spoke with a lot of my online friends. That was back in the days when the work firewall would allow us to do things like that because they didn't know any better yet. And I better put some around the edges here. It's going to be messy, but still. And so it was really because of that. Interestingly enough, it was because of that IRC chat room that one of my friends, as I mentioned already, who lived in New York, he lived in Queens, in fact, that was how we found out that he was fine and he had not been physically harmed by what happened that time, because because phones were absolutely jammed going in and out of New York City on that day. Nothing could go through, not cell phones, not landlines, nothing. Everything was jammed, everything was down, but the internet worked. And so when he actually got onto IRC, we were able to see and hear that he was okay. And I'm not offended when you try to do a southern accent. Well, thank you very much. Looks delicious. Cheese is a must in my life. Yeah, that's why again Jeff calls this the ultimate mac and cheese. Would you like some macaroni with your cheese? It's pretty much what it comes down to. And finally, here's some more of this Monterey and cheddar. And then after that, well, I'll pat this down, I guess. Yeah, this is a heck of a lot of cheese. I'll definitely say that. Whoa. Let's try to get this all the way to the edges here. Good thing I washed my hands first. And besides, any germs will, of course, be killed because it's going into a 375-degree oven. So it's not like I'm going to contaminate anyone by using my hands here. Also, the cheese is cool, fortunately. So I'm not burning myself either. There we go. There's a little bit left of the cheddar jack. And let's see, I don't know. Maybe, now that we've done that, the next step is, yeah, I know this is cheap Parmesan. As I said, I only had so much budget, I'm afraid. However, we will just do what we need to, which is give it a nice coating here of the Parmesan. Maybe I'll put this, I'll actually use the shaker. How about that? Some Parmesan. Little by little by little. Maybe not. It's not working. Okay, then let's try this one. And a little more. Whoa. A little more Parmesan here. A little there. A little everywhere. I'll be getting it everywhere too. That's all right. As you can see, and especially in this case, there's definitely no such thing as too much cheese. Besides, it is going to melt in the oven, which is kind of the whole point here. And finally, after all this, oh yeah, I forgot. Damn, I did forget something. In between, I was supposed to put in some basil. Oh well, we'll do all right. Even though this is dried basil, this is strong stuff. I can smell it from here. And a little bit more here and there and everywhere. Maybe a little bit more here. And that should be enough. All right, what do we have here? Huge clump, and he says, oh, whoa, yeah, you could say that. And I made a nice mess as well. So mo cheese. Did you forget the cheese? Yeah, you're right, Colin. I better go to the store and get some more cheese. That may not be enough. What is the weight of the food in those pans? Looks like you'll be getting a workout lifting them. Yeah, this not too bad, actually. Despite all this, the macaroni and cheese doesn't really weigh too much. I think we've got a total of 3 pounds, maybe a tiny bit less, of cheese here, combined with about 1.5 pounds of macaroni. But it's split into those 2 pans. So all told, it's only, that's like about 5.5 pounds. So we're only talking like about 2.5 to 3 pounds of food in each pan. And considering that the cast iron skillet itself weighs what, like 7 pounds, 6? No, I think it may be 5 or 6 pounds for a 10-inch. I actually don't remember the exact amount. But either way, I think I'll be doing okay. And I gotta get my scissors here. So, yeah, once these get into the oven, well, it's supposed to be in the oven for an hour. I'm not sure if we're gonna spend an hour talking about 9/11, but nonetheless, it'll be a chance to do a little bit at least. So, here comes our Romano. All right, and then once we do this, we've got one other thing, and that is, of course, we've got to put in our egg mixture, which is the next step we will be doing right after this. Do this nice and careful, at least, because it's the egg mixture that will really solidify everything and bring it all together. There we go. Maybe a little piece of Romano myself. Nice and hard. And let me double check the recipe before we see if I haven't missed anything else, as I probably have. Okay, begin building your mac and cheese. After the layer of cheeses, sprinkle a very sparse layer of dried basil. On the last layer, the presentation, you want the cheeses to be a little more mixed. Sprinkle on the last layer of dried basil in here. Okay, and we've done the layer of Paprika. Now we do, nice. In addition to all this, we get to do a little bit of one of my favorite spices, smoked paprika. This will give it color as well as flavor. I have no complaints at all about that. Oh, yeah. If you have never had Hungarian paprika, you owe it yourself to go and get some. Think of it this way. You know those barbecue chips that everybody likes from the store? Well, the barbecue flavor actually is not barbecue. It is actually smoked paprika. You know, the stuff smells and tastes exactly like you get in your barbecue chips. Wash my hands again. So that means you get to add that barbecue flavor to pretty much whatever you are cooking with. All right. Oh, yeah, Hungarian. Yes, indeed. Okay, now that we've done all this, let me check that recipe one last time. Pour milk egg mixture slowly into the middle. Oh, yeah, that's right. Now, here's where 3 eggs, 3 cups of milk, 4 eggs, 3 teaspoons. Okay, good. All right, that's one thing, of course, I had to leave in the fridge until now, and that was the milk. So let me get that out right now, and we will pour out 3 cups of milk. Let's change the view over a little bit. Let's see if we can do this right. That's pretty good. Okay, don't need this. And I'll be back in 1 second. Well, a little more than 1 second. A few seconds. As we pour 3 cups of milk. This isn't exactly rocket science, folks. this has to go back in the fridge. So from here, let's do 4 eggs. 1, 2. Careful, don't want to get any shell in this thing. 3. Like that, for instance. Okay. And 4. Oh, that one came right out. Okay. Wipe this off a little bit. Now, next up, the Ninja, which means we have to take this thing off. In we go. There we go. And in addition to this, we are supposed to do 3 tablespoons each of, no, teaspoons, not tablespoons, 3 teaspoons each of salt and sugar. Fortunately, I measured that out in advance. There's 1, and here's the other. Yes, I can't remember which one's the sugar and which one's the salt. That's all right. They're both going into the same place. So, now that we've done that, here's where we get to play with our toys. Come on, there we go. Come on, settle this thing on. Oh. Turn this around. There we go. That's on. Let's plug it in. And away we go. That was so satisfying. Oh, what do we have now? No, I just cook a lot with cheese. I never bought good enough paprika that had flavor. Yeah, dollar store paprika is moderately sufficient, but that's it. On the other hand, going for smoked paprika, which is a bit more expensive, yes, there's no denying that, but it's hardly as expensive as some crazy spices. That is definitely worth it. And having done that, time now for our last step before putting it in the oven, which means we get to look at our cast iron pans again. There we go. I do this nice and careful, which means right about now is when Trouble will decide he wants some pets, because he is actually standing at my feet now. So hold tight, kid. Let me finish this first. A little bit in here. A little bit in here. Don't go too fast. I don't want to spill it. Trying to get it to all be absorbed in. It looks like it is. So far, so good. A little bit more in here. And finally, last bits around here. All right. Well, it actually fit. I'm impressed. And let's double check the recipe to make sure I haven't missed anything, as I tend to do, like I missed the basil in the middle. Okay, pour the egg milk mixture slowly into the center of the macaroni. Pour slowly so you do not disturb your layers. Keep an eye on the edges of the dish and fill it just below the top of the last layer of macaroni. Okay. The cheese should mound above the macaroni and milk egg mixture. Well, considering it's spread out into 2 pans, that's probably why it does not look like the mixture is overflowing. It's still the same amount though. And at this point, it's time to get out our lids, which fortunately, since we are using large skillets, that's the easy part. Oops, that was the aluminum lid. Here comes one. Here's a nice, recently restored large lid. Actually, I have to press it down a bit. And on the other hand, we've got a large skillet lid from their double Dutch oven. That one. There we go. And it's good. And that means we get to go into the oven. Now, if you'll excuse me 1 second. I have to remove this camera again so that I can actually open the oven. That's what I get for doing these live videos on next to no budget. So there we are. Come on, let's get a better view of this, shall we? All right, that's better. Back a little bit. Come on, there we go. I think that'll fit. Here comes one. Careful. I want to spill this. Okay. There we go. That's one. Now for the other. Let's be careful here, nice and slow. And there we go. We're in. All right, and we're in. And the door is closed, and we are good. Now, in 30 minutes, we are supposed to remove those lids and then let it cook for another 30 minutes uncovered. All right. So we're already at 9 p.m., I'm afraid. So, I mean, unless we end up talking about 9/11 for the next hour, which is a little doubtful, but, nothing to catch it if it boils over. Yeah, I just noticed that. Let me take a quick look under there. Yeah, no, unfortunately, you're right. Well, all I can do is hope that these lids are on good and tight, I'm afraid. That's my fault. Nonetheless, all right, I guess that means we are coming back up here again. There we go. So that's a little too high. Let's move this. That's a little better, I think. There we go. All right. Thank you for waiting. Anyway, Pegtooth, trouble. My girl Billy just came in from outside. Yeah. Sounds like you've got your own little troublemaker, I guess, and I don't blame you at all. Okay, now. No politics, calm, Magna. We asked that much. So, Billy, yeah, just get some foil and live dangerously. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing here. Among other things, trying to have a discussion of 9/11 that doesn't turn into politics. Well, so far, I like to think maybe because I've been doing all the talking here, things have been nice and peaceful, but it doesn't seem like the comments have gotten too crazy either. Let me scroll back, if you don't mind, and see what I've missed for the comments here. Papa Strong's Adventures. We're going out of town. I tried to look it up, but didn't see anything. What's your cheese sauce? Joseph Ortiz. The recipe is, again, in a link at the in the description of this video. It is Jeff Rogers 5-cheese mac and cheese. The majority of the cheese sauce is sharp cheddar, mozzarella, and some pepper jack or Monterey Jack. The other two, it has a coating at the top of Parmesan and Romano. So that is definitely 5 cheeses right there, and we mixed in an egg and milk mixture to help bind everything together. Yeah, it's just a light snack. Yeah, so, yeah, I know. Like 1 spoonful of this will be a light snack. Especially since, oh yeah, I think I better confess something else. By the way, I am now on week 4 of a regimen where I have been determined to lose weight, because unfortunately, especially thanks to the pandemic, like so many people, I ballooned up to over 200 pounds, unfortunately, after spending most of the past 10 years between 170 and 175. So finally, as I said, 3.5 weeks ago, in fact, I vowed, okay, this is it. No more excuses. I am going to stop binging, going to stop stuffing myself, going to be exercising regularly and losing weight. 3.5 weeks later, I am down about 10 pounds. So I've definitely made a start. I've got about 20 more pounds to lose, but I can do so because I've already made a good start here. So yeah, as far as this mac and cheese is concerned, well, I'm not going to be having much of it. I will have a few bites because you got to taste test it and make sure it came out all right. But we are going to be unloading a lot of this mac and cheese on pretty much our neighbors and friends. So nonetheless, it was still worth it, though, to make this. Do these get covered to help melt? As you can see, yes, they are covered. So, okay. Did you stop at Brimfield or just drive through? I saw the video. Well, yeah, that is another thing. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I was going to mention. As I mentioned, this Saturday, as we said already, is September 11th, 2021. And it just so happens to be an interesting coincidence that this Saturday, September 11th, is also the next to last day of the Brimfield Antique Show. And so as to what I'm going to be doing on Saturday, September 11th, I'm going to be spending most of my day at Brimfield, browsing through the vendors and looking for cast iron and filming, which actually, I like to think that's actually not a bad way to commemorate September 11th, 2001. Doing something that really means a lot to me, and avoiding politics too. So, so I like that. Okay, what else? I made the Crowley rice, and it made my girlfriend want to do sex magic. Actually, regardless of who did that recipe, that is a delicious rice, especially when you serve it with curry. I mean, it's a nice sweet rice that really offsets the taste of the curry, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I do indeed recommend it, regardless of that. So, okay, getting back down to this. I just cook a lot with cheese, says Papa Dan, and thank you very much for the donations as well. I haven't even been asking for them because I really am not, and I'm surprised that people are being kind enough to really make donations here. Thank you very much for that. It does mean a lot, at least, that you like this enough that you actually make a donation of that kind. As you can see, I'm not heavily plugging the donation button, nor do I have any reason to, I think. Hello, Mr. Cast Iron. I keep missing your live shows, but I'm watching the replay. Been enjoying them. Did you find an old school diner in your travels? We passed a couple. I have to be honest, I really did not see too much or go out of my way, unfortunately, for that. I did, in fact, try the local food. Well, no, that's not true. One in particular. In Binghamton, in southern New York on the border of Pennsylvania is Binghamton, which is actually a large city that is regrettably very, very run down, and it has been for nearly the past half century or so since industry collapsed. But Binghamton has its own culture, and there's this famous sandwich from Binghamton called the Speedy. And that's essentially chicken or sometimes pork or even lamb, marinated in a vinegar type of sauce. So yeah, I've got this passion for vinegar. Believe me, I really love the Binghamton Speedies. And I did in fact go to this one dive in Binghamton for my Speedy, and it was a place called Lupo's. SNS, I think, Lupo's Barbecue Pit. Despite the name Barbecue Pit, what they mostly serve there are Speedies. But it's definitely worth it. If you've never had a Speedy, look it up and see if you can make it, because Speedies are really only local to Binghamton. Or if you're in the Binghamton area and you've never had a Speedy, have a Speedy. You will not regret it. In my travels, as I mentioned, I was at Syracuse. I went out to Buffalo, New York, and then down towards the south of New York through the Seneca Nation, and then back to Binghamton, and then up to Oneonta. So that was a lot of fun. This week, however, has been more of a staycation where I've really been trying to catch up on these videos more than anything else. And invest in some good gripping winter boots this year. Yeah, I certainly intend to. Mike, you need to make a road trip to Branson next week, Mr. Cast Iron. Oh, that sounds interesting. Branson, huh? I'm guessing there must be an antique festival up there. All right. Where was I? Okay. While we're at it, I just moved to Buffalo and they caught COVID, and they then caught COVID. Oh, my condolences, Joseph. Sorry to hear that. So, no pepper on the mac and cheese, or did I miss that? You know, I think I missed actually adding some pepper to it. However, there is pepper jack in it. There's also, and again, we do have the smoked paprika in it. Well, if need be, we can always add pepper to it afterwards. But, you know, what I was saying, though, before about September 11th, 2001, because, you know, as I mentioned already, my company, the CEO of my company lost a couple of his dear friends on those planes. Some of my friends actually saw the towers crash. So even though all I did was see it on TV, that was still enough for me. And that was really enough to really, as I said, to affect me. And it didn't help that pretty much in the hours after the disaster occurred and the towers fell, that's when the stupid talking heads started up on the news, of course. And that's when I knew it was really pretty much time to turn off the news, but I couldn't, at least not for a while. Everybody was glued to the news for the next couple of days, and there really wasn't much else to do. I mean, yes, we kept going to work and we sort of did our jobs, but things were very quiet because all we were doing was talking about what happened and keeping an eye on the news. So it took about 2 days or so. Oh, yeah, I will never forget. That was when CNN really, it was an eye-opener for me when I learned how stupid the media can be. When on that day, the CNN brought in the author Tom Clancy as an expert on terrorism. You can look it up yourself. I once posted a link to it, but yeah, that's just an example of some of the stupidity that happened those days. Also, in the days following 9/11, some rumors started going around, some of which unfortunately gave birth to conspiracy theories. I'm not going to dwell on the conspiracy theories. I do not like conspiracy theories, but I am thinking of a couple of things that I'm sure some folks here may have heard, some of the rumors that went around. There was a rumor, I mean, things were so confusing when everything was happening. There were rumors that there was a fifth plane that was shot down over the Atlantic Ocean, and that turned out to be not true. I know the conspiracy theorists say it was true, but no, it was not true. I mean, after all, there's absolutely no evidence of that at all. Also, there was another rumor that went around, and this again turned out to be not true, that supposedly they arrested a second batch of terrorists boarding planes the next day, which also was not true. And it's things like that is one reason why I can't stand conspiracy theories, because to this day, they still bring that up and claim that the truth is being suppressed, when in fact, no, it just turns out there was a lot of confusion, a lot of misinterpretation. And I'm not going to start arguing over conspiracy theories either. I'm the one who said I'm not going to get into politics over this. It's unfortunate that these things happened, but they did. And likewise, it's also unfortunate that all of the confusion and the sadness and really all of the emotional stuff that happened gave rise to all of these rumors that they still have not been able to quench, which they should, because all they are fairy tales. There are some conspiracy theories about 9/11 that I am not going to repeat here because it's not worth it. And as I said, I'm not dealing with politics really, especially for that reason. Then why get into the subject? Well, only because, it came up. And I'm thinking as well that it got to the point where about 2 days or so after the event, after the tragedy happened, I finally got sick of it. I just plain stood up in my home, turned off the TV, and I remember saying, enough. Then I went online because I was an internet geek and pretty much posted a message to all my friends saying, turn off your TV right now. No, not because of the media and not because of, how TV is brainwashing you or anything like that. Just because we're sick of it. There's really nothing going on at this point except for all of those stupid talking heads on the news. They were, in fact, just beginning the investigation. And I do remember that they broke into live news the day after when it was here in Boston, of course, where they started tracking down the trail leading from the terrorists. They did. I mean, they really started in steps. It's like they found the cars that they used to drive to the airport, which they left in the garage at the airport. And there were things in there like maps and other things that they were able to use. Then from there, they started going backwards, looking for hotel rooms, looking for, tickets that they sold, how they are the companies that trained, not companies, they're not companies, but like where they learned or where they got experienced pilots from and so on. Yeah, the investigation started pretty much in the hours after it all happened, of course, and then other things started happening as well. Because shortly after September 11, 2001, two other things happened. One, of course, was the anthrax male poison, which turned out to be not related at all to terrorists. But of course, nobody could be sure about that. I mean, for all we knew, they could very well have been part of this whole, part of it. I do not remember. No, I believe they ended up finally determining the one who really was responsible for this. And he did not have any link to Al-Qaeda or terrorists or anything like that. Also, this was just such an incredible, tragedy that, would you believe, nobody seems to remember that only a month after, there was a major airline crash in New York City. I mean, I believe like a couple of hundred people were killed. It was really a disaster in itself. And yet no one remembers it. It's like honestly, even though it was terrible and they actually did get video footage, of the smoke rising from New York City from where that plane crashed. And yet all people could say was, well, at least it wasn't terrorists, or at least it wasn't as bad as last month. I don't know. It's just human nature. What can you say? I mean, I don't even have an answer for that, because I think I felt that way too. I mean, I know that's not nice to say, but I kind of remember actually feeling that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe because a plane disaster or a plane crash is something we can deal with. I mean, after all, we've had plane crashes. We continue to have plane crashes. They are sad, but they're just not as monumental or incredible or impossible as hijacking two airlines and flying them into buildings. So I don't know. I am not a psychologist. I can't really explain why we felt that way, but I'd have to say that for a lot of us, we did. Peg tooth. I was talking to my brother on the internet on that day when he was living in Wyoming doing research, And he cut our conversation short because he said he got to go. There's a big attack on America. Yeah, I certainly understand that. Joseph Ortiz, my uncle, who was a who was a high-level manager at Con Ed, the electric company in NYC, always tells me the first few hours and how devastating it really was. Oh, I don't doubt it. So, I mean, the chaos and everything, and being behind the scenes like that, like say at the electric company, whew, I mean, obviously, it's like they had one eye on the news and one eye on their controls or whatever jobs they were doing. I was lucky in that all I was doing was taking calls from customers, and the calls just pretty much stopped when it all happened. I'm sure your uncle wasn't so lucky. I remember it crashed in Queens, and it was American Airlines. Yeah, there are at least 500 planes in Phoenix Sky Harbor trying to land. It looked freaky. Oh yeah, I know. Oh, it was actually being able to land all of those planes was practically a miracle in themselves. So really, credit to the air traffic controllers who actually managed that. Gotta get back to work, Fallon Stone. Well, yeah, you have a good evening. Please look at my comment on your walking around video at the New York show. I would like to know what a certain gem pan is, because I have one too. I'm not much of an expert at gem pans. I know what you're talking about. The ones that have these scoops with the little, kind of like this. I think they call them Turk's head pans. A number of them have gate marks. I think they were actually a lot more popular during the 19th century than they are today. I mean, I believe they still make them, but you do seem to find a lot of those gate mark gem pans more so than you see from the 20th century manufacturers. There have been some, but the gate mark ones seem to be a lot more common. Yes, and somebody had asked as well if I could help to point out where at Brimfield the actual cast iron vendors are. Don't really have much of a description of where the cast iron vendors are. I know what I learned is that you've got the parking areas at one end, and then all of the vendors go down for almost a mile or so all the way to the other end of Brimfield. I always thought there was parking way at the other end of Brimfield, but there wasn't, at least not when I was there on Tuesday. It was all on one end. Maybe there'll be more parking by Saturday on the other end. So let's think of it this way. If you start at the parking area, almost immediately at the parking area is this church. And right across the street from the church is, well, that's really where the fair starts and the vendors really start in earnest. Right in that area, right near the very beginning, there are at least 2 decent cast iron vendors right there. And then what can I say? It's like when you work your way down, I think I came across at least 5 or 6 vendors. People who had restored their cast iron and it was hanging from those racks. And of course, they almost all had incredible prices on them. That's one thing to realize when you go to Brimfield. If you go to the professional cast iron vendors at Brimfield, you're going to see some amazing sights. You're also going to see some amazing price tags. At least 3 different vendors, for instance, I saw a Wagner Ware number 10 with the Wagner logo selling for $95. All 3 of them seem to have this. All 3 vendors seem to have the same price. And when pretty much if you see anything with the name Griswold, yeah, you better believe it's going to be the price is going to be jacked up into the stratosphere here. I mean, I doubt you'll see anything, even Griswold little ashtrays and number 3s. I doubt you'll see anything with a Griswold name selling for any less than $30. And frankly, for a number 3 Griswold, I mean, unless you absolutely gotta have that particular pan, $30 for a number 3 is really too much. So, but that's how it is. The Griswold Dutch ovens probably have an average price of like $175 to $250 or more. So yeah. On the other hand, You may still, if you're lucky, you may still be able to find that score that you've always been looking for. That's one of the reasons to go to a place like Brimfield, where you can see some amazing sights and maybe actually come across something. In the beginning area, though, besides those professional vendors, I came across this mom and pop seller. They were selling all kinds of junk. They had one table full of cast iron pans. Almost all of them were unmarked, and they were selling them at decent prices too, relatively speaking. For $15 each, yeah, I succumbed to temptation from those people. For $15 each, I got myself a 1960s Lodge with the big Made in USA logo, because I don't have one of those pans yet, and actually I've got a plan of doing a Lodge video, and so that helped. I also got, for $15, a BSR Red Mountain handwritten number 5. So if you know BSR, you know that handwritten pans were the ones with like the first generation of BSR. And I'm starting to smell something. I'm starting to smell some cheese from the oven, so I better check on that. I think we're at the point now where I believe we can actually uncover it. All right, and I hope it's not. I hope it's not overflowing like you said. In fact, maybe I think we better turn so that we can see this, because, like it or not, it may be an amusing view. So let's move these things over a little bit. Let's see if we can get a look at the oven. Come on. There we go. That's a little better. And let's see what we got. Yep, one of them is starting to drip a little bit, but not very much. That's not going to be too difficult. It's not like there's a big layer of cheese or anything on the bottom. So all told, I don't think we're doing too bad with it. However, let's see. Now comes the fun part. Let me get both of the gloves, because it's time to uncover them. Pawpaw Dan, my opinion is 9/11 is remembered because America as a whole was attacked. Not so with individual plane crashes or auto wrecks. We feel sorry for the families, but we don't feel attacked. Yeah, that's I think you got a very good point there, Pawpaw Dan. Okay, let's do this right. First, let's reach over here. Try not to burn myself, as I've been known to do. Here's one. And now for the other. In fact, I think I'll pull this one out a little bit. Still, it looks pretty good. And it does look like, come on, move over. There we go. It does look like the cheese is congealing, doesn't it? So I'd say we're doing all right here. Just gotta be careful not to drop this. Got it. And number 2. These are looking pretty darn good, if you ask me. All right. Before I close this, well, you know, it's not like a cake. It's not going to fall. Let's see if we can get a nice close-up view of these things. Not bad. All right. That means now all we have to do is wait for another half hour or so. Stick these handles back in. And we will have some mac and cheese. Oh, yeah. So far, so good. I'm debating whether or not I should just keep talking, or if folks are just getting tired. So, I mean, after all, it is a Wednesday night, and while I'm on vacation, not everybody is. We'll say that. So, yeah. Yeah, that seems about right. Actually, let me try to move these things around a little bit. That's a little better. Yeah, actually, you can see some of the cast iron that way. Let me just move this. That may do. Hey guys, came in way late. Hello, Jimmy Langford. Glad to see you. As you can see, we are kind of running late as well. This mac and cheese has another half hour yet to go. I'm not sure whether or not we may be able to make it. I mean, I've actually got 42 people watching, and thank you very much for that. So I was making some sausage. Hey, that's not a bad way to spend the day. That's nothing to apologize for, if you ask me. I believe Jeff Rogers uses a 3-quart Dutch oven, but I think yours looks a little better. Well, thank you for the compliment. And yes, he does use a 3-quart Dutch oven, and that's why I thought that 2 10-inch skillets should have enough volume to fit all that. And it may very well be. As I said, yes, it was dripping some liquid, but the cheese was not overflowing. There is not a big layer of burnt cheese on the bottom. So it's actually going to be pretty easy to clean the oven, and I'm liking that a lot, actually. Oh, let me point that out. That is, well, maybe not, since I know I don't want to get in trouble with the landlord, but maybe or maybe not, that might be a smoke detector under there. Now, yeah, I know covering smoke detectors is a bad thing. Well, the smoke detectors in my home are really, really sensitive. And at first, when I first started cooking in this kitchen, when I first moved in, that dang smoke detector was going up just every single time I tried heating up a pan on the oven. Got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. So there may or may not be a smoke detector under there. There are still 2 more smoke detectors well within range here. And in fact, I've got to be careful that we don't set them off. I mean, you've heard those smoke detectors go off sometimes when I've been cooking. So it's not like I'm at any real risk here. If a fire were to ever happen, yes, the smoke detectors would still go off. All right, I'll stay. I'm retired. Well, thank you for that. So I will take a look at all the gate mark stuff you have. It says Chuck Miller. Looking forward to that. I said, whoa, when you took the lids off, looked good. Yeah, I know. I'm actually quite impressed with it myself. And yeah, that is one dang interesting mac and cheese. I have actually made it a couple of times before. I did make it for Thanksgiving, and once I made it for Memorial Day. And now I'm making it for 9/11. But yeah, that mac and cheese is really an event in itself, isn't it? So, and it's definitely worth it if you don't mind spending all the money on all that cheese. I mean, we're talking like 3.5 pounds of cheese here. And in fact, after going out of that way and getting that pecorino romano, which I did not do, you end up using only a sprinkling of it. So that's why I don't mind. I compromised and just used regular grated romano instead. It's still going to taste good. I have no doubt about that. Even so, well, there you go. If you've never made homemade mac and cheese before, well, there's one way to knock it out of the park. There are a lot, of course, very easy mac and cheese recipes. I've got a couple myself. I've done a couple of mac and cheese videos, and I like how they came out. Mac and cheese is actually pretty easy. There's nothing wrong with the box stuff, by the way. I've got this plan one of these days to do actually intentionally making box craft dinner, because there's a lot of hate going on for that. Everybody who makes homemade mac and cheese just goes on about how terrible the box stuff is. Well, compared to homemade mac and cheese, yeah. I mean, homemade mac and cheese is simply better. There's no denying that. You're putting a lot more cost and a lot more effort and a lot more love into it. And so you're getting some great results. Yet, we've all had boxed mac and cheese, and a lot of us grew up on boxed mac and cheese. So, I mean, there's got to be something to it, because we keep eating that stuff again and again. So, fair is fair. All right. Joseph Ortiz, a few years ago, my friend moved to a new place, and their smoke detector was a full commercial fire alarm. It's not fun when they're cooking at 3 a.m. and the speaker and lights going off. Oh, yeah, I know the one you mean. It's like, fire, fire, please evacuate. Fire, fire, please evacuate. Shut up! So, it's a cheap box made with extra butter and no milk. The best. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's just it. You can take the box stuff and add your own milk, and maybe even add some natural cheese to go along with the cheese powder. You cannot cook a steak in cast iron and have a smoke detector nearby. No question about that. Yeah, that's when I turn the fans on full blast to get some circulation, and it has helped. So, if you come across a Canadian Smarts cast iron pan, would you be tempted to purchase one or video it? Yeah, I've been asked about that. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think, Peg, you're the only one who was asked about that. I did a quick run through of Brimfield yesterday. You saw I posted those photos to my Facebook page, just like a preview there. And so I do not recall seeing a Canadian Smart cast iron pan. I saw one Volrath. There's a fair amount of gate mark stuff there. There's a lot of unknown gate mark kettles being sold at Brimfield. Those things are all over the place. There are quite a few gate mark Scotch bowls as well. I'm not sure whether or not all of the vendors are going to be jacking up the prices of their cast iron just because it's cast iron. I mean, as you know, cast iron's gotten really popular, but best we can do is look. And the best place to look, it may not even be at the professional vendors. I mean, if you come, there are quite a few of those mom and pop vendors that are selling those piles of junk. And it's there that you may very well get some of the best deals. Let me bring one of them out. I'm sure you folks have seen this. Cast iron fire starter. I actually had not had one. And at Brimfield, of all places, I paid $15 for it, complete with the lid and the, what is this? Soapstone starter here. Yeah, I've seen these in action. I know how to use it. But anyway, at Brimfield, paying $15 for this is a pretty good bargain because chances are there will be vendors selling this as a cauldron with a price of like $40, $50, or $60 or more. Actually, antique malls will do that too. So I guess really the best thing to say is that even at Brimfield, if you have patience more than anything else, you can probably still find yourself a good bargain. And of course, there's a lot of other stuff to get at Brimfield in addition to cast iron. I mean, pretty much no matter what your hobby is, you will find something interesting there. Drag your family along, drag your kids. They may think, why are we going here? And they will find things that interest them. I guarantee. Vintage rock and roll shirts, what can you say? It's like the bands that we listen to. Yes, sometimes the kids still listen to them. So who knows? But there will be things there that anybody would want. So that's why, yeah, a trip to Brimfield is definitely worth it. In Canada, we call box mac and cheese Kraft Dinner generically as KD. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, we call it Kraft Dinner as well. Yes. Even if it's not made by Kraft. We should do a channel field trip. Yeah, that would be interesting. Hard to manage it, of course, since YouTube people are all over the country. I mean, heck, I would like to go down and see the world's longest yard sale someday and spend some time traveling along that route. Your opinion of cooking a steak, do you use the hot and fast method on burner or low and slow? I like to do mine entirely on the stovetop. I mean, a few times I have done the reverse sear, and yes, that's actually turned out a really nice steak. I have found, though, that I myself am not a fan of doing the sear it in the pan and then cook it in the oven. If anything, I would do it in reverse, the reverse sear, or just simply use a thermometer and just cook the whole thing on the stovetop. I bring mine to a temperature somewhere between 500 and 600 degrees, which is enough to do a nice crust on it. And then from there, just keep cooking. Flip it every couple of minutes. No, I do not agree with the, you only flip your steak once method. I am very much a believer in flipping it every couple of minutes and checking it with the thermometer until it reaches the right temperature, which is about 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it reaches that point, you then take it off the burner, put it on the plate, cover it with foil, and let it rest. And you've got yourself a medium rare steak. Cheap box made with extra butter? No, we said that part already. So anyway, I'm thank you for talking about Brimfield. I mean, of course, as I said, this thing is meant to be kind of like again a remembrance of September 11th, 2001. There are always other things to talk about. I mean, I'm sure other folks do have their own memories of it as well. So yeah, my friend who lived in Queens, and he actually saw the towers fell. He had trouble sleeping for months afterwards, and he finally ended up moving out of Queens. He now lives in northern Pennsylvania and can never move back to New York City, he says. Oh, he's traveled back to New York City, but he is not going to ever live there again. So, and I know I had another friend who was trapped in New York City, in that she had trouble getting out of the city until finally getting home. So, yeah, definitely people were affected by that day, even if you were not there yourself, like I mentioned already. Again, co-workers, friends, family. Yeah, we all really, we all lost someone important to us on that day, even if it was just somebody we saw on TV. So, and that's why I wanted to do a little moment, at least tonight, to just remember all that without all the politics, everything that happened after that, where we went and invaded Afghanistan and stayed there for the next 20 years. And I'm not going to say any more about that, or how it then bloomed into the Second Iraq War, and how, well, really, our whole lives have been changed. And in some ways, I guess it could be said that terrorists won because, well, they accomplished what they set out to do. And that could be an argument in itself, and it's one that I really do not want to get into. I just point out that is a point that unfortunately can be made. I mean, you can debate it, but I do feel that regrettably there are ways that kind of conclusion, it's one that's not entirely unlikely, I think. However, I guess, despite all the politics that have happened, despite the fact that we really didn't seem to learn anything from it, after all, we pulled out of there the same way we pulled out of Vietnam. I guess at least some of us can do our best to not only move on, but, well, learn something from it. Even if it means just trying to open our eyes a little bit, be nice to our friends and family, and to strangers as well, to respect other people, respect other cultures. I know it can be argued that it was another culture that was attacking us, which is a very long and complicated argument in itself. But it can also be said, and this is the part that I agree with, what the terrorists were practicing and continue to practice, and the Taliban continue to practice, that's not Islam. That's not the religion that's being followed by 2 billion people worldwide who are just like you and me. People who have their jobs, they have their families, and whether or not Islam is a big part of their lives, they are as shocked and terrified and saddened by what happened, really, as anybody else. I know there was actual footage of, like, say, in Palestine, for instance, some people were cheering loudly when they heard the news about what happened. I'm not going to condemn the entire country or the entire Middle East or even that whole area for that. There are idiots in every culture, ours and otherwise. I mean, I don't even have to get into it. You know very well that anybody here could cite any number of examples of people here in our own country, of our own culture, acting like idiots in some manner or another, to the point where it's like you just feel ashamed that these people are part of are on the same continent as you. It's the same everywhere. And unfortunately, this kind of situation is still with us, and it's likely going to be with us really pretty much as for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. Joseph Ortiz, I guess at some point we have to move on. How long do we fight a war without going into politics? It says it's at some point time to move on. Yeah. You might argue as well that there was going to be chaos when we left, no matter who was in charge. And as I said, I don't want to get into that subject. I don't want to blame anybody for that because there's too much blaming going on already. And anything I say, can be countered, and anything I say has probably already been spoken by any number of people, so I'm not going to bother repeating that here. It's a sad time, unfortunately. That's the simple truth. I mean, not just because it's I do not even want to say anniversary. I've said this before. I do not want to use the word anniversary to describe the 20th year, since a tragedy. I would rather use anniversary for something like birthdays, wedding anniversaries, anniversaries of good things that happened to you. Last December, I celebrated my cast iron anniversary, the 10th anniversary of the day when I first cooked in cast iron and fell in love with it. That's an anniversary. September 11th, 2021 is not an anniversary. It's just marking a tragedy. And it's because we've got this stupid habit of trying to neatly categorize everything. Like, say, for instance, every 5 years, that this year is supposed to be the 20th year since 2001. Yes, it is. And next year is going to be the 21st. And so it goes. But there's no reason why we can't keep remembering them each year because they deserve it. Just like, again, we remembered December 7th, 1941. We remember D-Day when a lot of people really paid the ultimate sacrifice. Excuse me 1 second. I just got a text. Just seeing what's going on here. Oh, nothing much. Oh, Jay. Hey. Wells Fargo Fraud Information Center. To avoid account suspension, please confirm your identity via the secure link below. I don't have a Wells Fargo account. Yeah. Speaking of idiots, hey, William Hurt, it's all a lot more complicated than we can imagine. If you're able, try to know what judgment is and try hard not to judge. And it's human nature to judge. That's what makes it so hard as well. Soon to be ordered by Rosie Skillet. Just had to. Oh, I don't blame you at all. Hi, Trouble. I don't blame you at all. That's a nice skillet, isn't it? I guess, actually, here, let me pick this guy up here. Here we are. Hi, Trouble. And he's over here. Anyway, yeah. Rosie the Riveter. Lodge has introduced a new Rosie the Riveter skillet, a second edition of it, I guess you could say. Even though they did not do a 2021 edition of their Made in America skillet, evidently Rosie the Riveter was so popular last year that they figured that they would do good in doing a reissue. So now we actually have a cast iron skillet with Rosie the Riveter saying we can do it. Are you enjoying yourself, Trouble? And that is a nice skillet. I did, in fact, order one myself. Let me get him down now. As a Christmas present. It's going to be a Christmas present for somebody, but of course I'm not going to say who. And, well, I mean, of course, you could say that about pretty much any of these nice skillets that we see from Cracker Barrel or Lodge or whoever. You know, they do make good presents. They also make good cookers. I mean, as you can see right now, I have those two nice American skillets there. The Cracker Barrel American Seal skillet and the Lodge 2018 Made in America skillet. They're not hanging on my wall. I'm cooking with them, and I'm proud to cook with them. Does it ruin the collector value? Probably, but that doesn't matter to me. I'm just glad to own them. I really do not have any intent of reselling them. I mean, no, I don't know what's going to happen 10 or 20 years from now, but hey, if it happens, it happens. Right now, all I know is they are a couple of nice cast iron pans, and I am more than happy to keep on cooking in them. Just got it last year, says Joseph Ortiz. Jimmy Langford, it's time to get my lie bath changed out. I have to get my boys to come and help me carry it out. Had it for a year. Oh, yeah. Well, if your lie bath is not too full of crud, hell, maybe you could just strain it rather than having to redo it. Whatever's easier and cheaper. Lie bath can last who knows how long. Some people have had the same bath going for years. It's like when they feel it's not doing a good job, they just throw more lye into it. And yeah, I did a lye bath video here on Cast Iron Wednesday. What was it, about a month or so ago? I think it's about time where maybe next week, in fact, maybe for that, I think I'll take those pans out of the lye. And then that way I can put some more in. I mean, after all, I've got the stuff that I got from my recent road trip. And then, hey, we've got Brimfield. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to have some stuff to clean up. And I am taking your advice to heart, folks, in that once I get this all cleaned up, I'll probably be doing a giveaway or some other kind of contest or something on my channel here where, obviously to help boost the number of members, which is nice, or a number of people watching. It'll also help to get rid of this extra junk I have lying around. I mean, what can I say? Now I have like 4 John Wright baking pans. I can easily give away some of them. I've got a few more skillets that I can easily give away. And I'm actually very much looking forward to it. So, no, it's full of crud. Okay, so it might be easier than you're saying to just simply start over from scratch. Well, I suppose that's a point. I guess it depends on how expensive lye is in your part of the neck of the woods, because that's really the only expense. I mean, water is water, and then you just get yourself the necessary amount of lye and start over, I guess. Peg 2, Deborah Lee Scott from Mary Hartman's TV show lost her boyfriend firefighter. Really? She was so heartbroken that she uncharacteristically drank herself to death. Her grief paralyzed her. Wow. Mary Hartman was before my time, sort of. I was really young, but I do know my mom, who was a soap opera addict in those days, she watched Mary Hartman. Looking for some tips on cleaning a grill pan. Well, here's an easy tip. Use a roll of rolled up wad of aluminum foil. That's about as cheap and easy as you can get. You just loosely crumple up some foil into a big ball, and you can use that to scrub between the grates. Beyond that, you could even use a lye bath or electrolysis, just like cleaning up any other piece of cast iron. This year, in fact, if you look at Dollar General, well, now that summer's over, it's probably in the clearance section. But I noticed this spring at Dollar General or Family Dollar, one of those, in the section where they do all the summer barbecue stuff, they had this interesting grill cleaner. Basically, it looked like a paint roller, and it had these wire brush thingies across instead of a roller. And there you go. There's a nice grill cleaner for you. And they were selling them for $1. So you might even want to take a trip to Family Dollar and see if they might still have them. Knew she had died, but didn't know the backstory. Thanks for sharing. Look, okay. And Mr. Cast Iron, I picked up a United We Stand skillet from Cracker Barrel. Yeah, I saw that, actually. I did see your video, and, well, I'm glad you liked it. United We Stand. Yeah, I mean, as you know, that's kind of appropriate here regarding 9/11 and everything like that. Back in just after September 11, 2001, Lodge actually produced a memorial skillet that had a picture of an eagle on it, and it said "United We Stand." I came across one of those, in fact, at an antique store several years ago. I cleaned it up, and then I think I ended up selling it for Memorial Day a year or so later or something like that, because I definitely do not have that in my collection. But there is actually an earlier United We Stand skillet from Lodge. However, now you have the United We Stand skillet, and well, you can use it pretty much, well, you can use it whenever you want, of course, but if you want to do something patriotic with it, well, feel free. And yeah, I was about to do that. Yes, Joseph Ortiz, time to check the mac and cheese. Good idea. I'd say we're just about done at this point. So let me move this around again. And actually, what I should do, clean this stuff off the top here so that we can actually put this on the, take it out of the oven and put it on there. On the other hand, we've got over here, oh good, this is cool enough now that I can pick it up with my hands. This one, this other one, ooh, this one's still hot. All right. Oh, one other pan I actually had here. Wasn't sure if I was going to use it or not, but I figured it would be appropriate. I've shown this one before. The USA Skillet, which is made by Smith and Clark Iron Works. And no, they are not it's upside down, isn't it? Smith and Clark Iron Works. No, they are not a new USA cast iron manufacturer. They are Asian, in fact, and they produce a whole bunch of kitchenware and other goods for TJ Maxx. However, that was a nice little skillet, especially since I found it for $10. All right, having said all that, like you said, let us check our mac and cheese, why don't we? Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Oh, man. Very carefully take this. Here's one. Oh, wow. And here's the other. Ugh. Oh, yeah. There we go. And thank you for waiting, everyone. Oops, let me move this a little closer. Don't want to get the cords all tangled up. There we go. And now, at last. Here's one. In fact, let's get nice and close. And here's the other. So there we go. Look at that. I'm going to have to get some good photos as well and post them. But thank you for Jeff Rogers. Boy, this is kind of nice cheese crust on the top. Here is Jeff Rogers Ultimate Mac and Cheese. Made in 2 USA-made cast iron skillets. And hopefully, you might even consider that to be a nice memorial as a way to remember September 11, 2001. Because after all, we did this really in order to keep calm more than anything else, as well as to remember that evening. We will have to wait patiently while it sets. Yeah, as you can see, it's still bubbling. Probably in, I don't know, an hour or so, it'll probably be all finished. Of course, by that time, I'm going to be in bed. So what I'm going to have to do is put the lids back on these things. Or maybe just some foil. Yeah, I think some foil might be better. I don't think I want to make this airtight. But nonetheless, I like how it turned out. So thank you very much once again to Jeff Rogers for the recipe. And, oh yeah. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching and for sticking around this long. I didn't expect it to take this long, but nonetheless, I thank you, everybody, for your patience. And here's the result. Ooh, this looks good. And thank you again for letting me just talk on and on and on like this about September 11th. And thank you as well that, that we actually managed to get through this without any arguments. I did bring up, I started touching on politics a couple of times, but that was inevitable. It's a subject, regrettably, that politics will forever be entwined with it. And you better believe there's going to be a lot of politics on TV and on the internet over the next few days, which is why I'm glad that on Saturday I'm just going to be spending my time at Brimfield. Meanwhile, between now and Saturday, we'll be having some mac and cheese. And having said all that, oh, video froze? Oh, damn it. Are you sure it froze? Are you able to see this? Okay. Is it moving around? I'm moving the camera around. All right. Well, we're about done now anyway. So, again, I'm going to get some good photos as well. So, all I can say is, though, once again, thank you very much for everything. It's actually, I think this was pretty fun tonight. And I appreciate everybody for sticking around. So at this point, I guess all I can say, like I've been saying before, see you all next Wednesday, folks. Thank you for everything. Have a good evening. Yeah, that was great.